I'm Isyander.
And I'm Koda.
And today we are talking about something different because, frankly, we can only shoot so many hours of car content before the main show until it's just its own thing. Like, that is not a joke. We usually, warm up a little bit because, it's not just like you just walk in and talk. There's, a little bit of pre-show, a little bit of chat.
We're unfortunately not that locked in.
I know. A little bit of pre-show, a little bit of chat. And, sometimes, inevitably, something will bring a car up and a whole hour charged.
Yeah, just a whole hour before the shoot.
Yeah, fully charged, fully gone. So
then what happens is I go, I need a coffee because we shoot late, and then we're up until 4 a.m.
Yeah, but today it shouldn't happen because today the point is we're going to be talking about cars, and
the pre-show is the show.
Yes, and specifically we won't just be talking about any car. We'll kind of be talking about the car, at least if you ask them anyway. Mm-hmm. We're going to be chatting about Ferrari. I know you hate it.
I'm going to make people mad today.
No, you hate Ferrari. Have mixed feelings about it that we're going to go over today, honestly.
I'm going to make people very angry today.
Complicated. And a lot of this was spurred by one Doug DeMuro.
Cars and bids.
No, they don't pay us, so no, certainly not cars and bids. Plus there's no car behind. Anyway, more of the story.
Well, there's also no bids.
Yeah, he is, y'all already know who Doug is. Probably the smartest person in car YouTube. Turned saying this into exiting the car market at the actual perfect. I'm not joking. He sold cars and bids at the perfect time, dude. Car values have just been kind of since. So he's just objectively up. Only Carrera GT owner who lets those tires spin on public roads. That's objectively pretty cool. And he posited a very interesting question. Actually, no, I'll be fair. He's one of 3 Carrera GT owners who lets that thing see the public road. Because they treat them like investments, and my feelings on investment cars are a whole different topic.
I feel like are going to be actually made clear on this topic specifically if we're talking about Ferrari.
Today. But he basically posited that, or at least thought, that Ferrari doesn't have it anymore. It's losing its spot at the top. It doesn't have its luster anymore. And
yes,
it depends. He's looking at it from a different perspective than you. You are looking at it from one very valid perspective, which is young people don't care about Ferraris anymore.
It's not necessarily young people don't care about Ferraris. It's more just you lost the plot. The one guy, Enzo, who said, I hate my fans. I'm going to censor that in post. He was right because he wanted to make a car for a very specific kind of person, and then not that specific kind of person started buying his cars, and that not very specific kind of person that started buying his cars ruin cars.
Enzo himself said that I make cars for young men that only old men can afford. So do with that information what you will. I'm not weighing in on that at all.
Because old men are oh, my back hurts. Oh, it's hard to get into this car. Oh, it goes too fast. The suspension's not cushy enough. Oh my God, it's too loud.
Okay, to be fair,
and then you ruin the sports car.
You're saying that with a young and spongy spine. Let's circle back in 40
then don't buy a Ferrari.
Well, this is a problem.
Just be honest. Buy a G-Wagon, which is another thing you ruined.
This is okay. This is a problem that's faced by pretty much every luxury sports car manufacturer, where it's we make sports cars and they're intense, but nobody who actually can afford it wants this. Nobody wants to go through a speed bump and feel their jaw clatter.
Yeah.
And this is a real problem. It's why the turbo exists and is very comfy, and you can waft around in it incredibly fast. And then you have a GT3, which will come up in this episode too, because it's it's the thing that's getting the closest to Ferrari's lunch. Mm-hmm. But you did mention Enzo, and that just reminded me of one of my favorite quotes from him, which is it I really hate my No, it's not I make
because that one's my favorite.
No, he's got a couple really good ones. I make engines and attach wheels to them, which facts he did. Some of my favorite cars are from that era of just this is a motor. And
if Italian car makers weren't so focused on making art didn't have
look at.
They are pretty to look at.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally like a lot of Pininfarina's work, which
I love Pininfarina's work.
But there are some Ferraris that I'm okay, that's most of them are the wedgie ones.
Mm-hmm. Pininfarina did the wedgie ones.
Did he? I don't like Pininfarina's wavy work. I like his wedgie work.
But
that's personal taste.
Car.
That's personal taste. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I don't like it.
There's no car Pininfarina has touched, in my opinion, that isn't beautiful. I mean, like, even the fun fact, the NSX, I believe was a Pininfarina project.
I had a point to that.
Oh,
the point was, if they weren't so focused on making art and like really acknowledged, like that went dug into the I make engines and put wheels on them, I feel like they'd get along with American muscle.
And that engine actually. Okay, you're making me think of too many things. That did remind me of another Enzo quote, because there's a lot of these etched in my brain. I think it was, a Jeep is the closest Americans will ever get to making a sports car. Which just, he could be so unlikable, but the man only cared about one thing, and that's literally all he devoted himself to.
Is he wrong?
At the time, maybe not. But like nowadays, I'd say, I think we can.
No, we have some good sports cars nowadays, but like of the time, we were not really focused on the sports car market, were we? It was more like muscle and like, I mean, we've
American car culture has always been very different from
it's
global
been
car culture.
Wacky.
Because our roads don't have corners on them. So like a lot of our domestic manufacturers don't really care.
How fast can you go in a straight line?
Pretty much. That's how you use most cars here, which is kind of a shame. But like, you know, it is what it is. The engines with wheels philosophy is something that's still around. It's just kind of, okay, well, it's still kind of around in Ferrari. They still have one of the 5 V6s, I think sounds amazing. They've just put a hybrid attached to it and made it very, very complicated and like given it weird haptic buttons. And like the car's still really pretty.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the F1. I do love. No, it's not F1. What is it? Where they are the one that currently has a bunch of like hybrid usage.
Most cars on the road?
No, in a racing division, not a road car.
Formula
a racing
1
division.
requires hybrid engines, yeah.
Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought it was full motor.
No, it's hybrid assisted V6s.
Anyway, I'm thinking of the sounds they make when they start up at speed.
Oh, you're thinking of what LMPH, I think.
LMPH.
Yes.
That's the one I'm thinking.
Where, specifically the Cadillac LMPH car, where it's like
no, honestly, all of them. Where they start with the whine, it just as the electric motors start up, and then all of a sudden you hear the gates of hell open as whatever engine is shoved into this thing activates.
LMPH.
Go ahead, Isyander.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Light error. I don't actually watch that. I should though, because there's some fun.
I do
stuff.
I like the philosophy behind that racing division of just go wild, see what you can do with the engineering,
But basically,
figure it out.
the premise here, like the full idea is not only do young people not really care about Ferrari anymore, but also there are cars sitting on the lots, there are values that are cratering, and some people have lost up to $300,000 on just depreciation. Which, like, you wince, you're not a Ferrari customer. To them, that's fine. Like, that used to be the game that you play is, I will lose, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars on these cars, and then I'll get one car that will immediately double in value to the order of millions.
Yeah.
And it'll be kind of a wash.
But I mean, statistically, most people are going to react to the number lost, or react to the phrase lost $300,000 and, like, cry.
I mean, you recognize that a lot of Ferrari customers would just like go in, what do I need to buy? Well, you need to buy this, and this. And then they'll go, okay, cool. I will buy this, drive it home, put it on a tender, and never think about it. It will have the exact amount of mileage it took me to get home. And then in like 6 months or a year, the amount of mileage it took me to get back to the dealership.
Which I
will sell it back.
Which I have different feelings on.
Go on.
Oh.
Go right ahead.
Oh, yeah, I hate that.
I mean,
you're in an S&M relationship with your car manufacturer. You're in an S&M. Your dealer has you in a gimp suit with one of those like urinal funnels on the mouth, and you're okay with that.
That's wild. I wouldn't say all that. I'd say a lot of what Ferrari does, a lot of their image right now is that exclusivity, you know? And
yeah,
so,
but
I mean, like
you don't deserve our curated expensive lineup. Buy 5 cars first.
It sounds like a really, really dumb problem, right? But frankly, as far as Ferrari's confirmed, there are too many rich people. I don't care. I can't count the number of you. There are too many of you running around. There are too many of you running around. And so, historically speaking, they've always kind of gated their production. Ferrari has never not been able to sell more. Okay. A couple times they've been able to not sell more cars. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, they have artificially limited themselves. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can even see it today. They released an SUV. I've never seen one. Have you? Uh-huh.
I didn't even know they
How was
released
their
an-
SUV still exclusive with a V12, by the way? So cool.
Okay,
listen,
that's funny.
there's something deeply funny about Ferrari releasing an SUV, calling it the pure blood, and then cramming a V12 in a family car. That's so dense. But yeah, have you ever seen one?
No.
I've never seen one. I cannot count the number of Macans and Cayennes and G-Wagons I've seen. These supposedly more special SUVs, you know?
Which they're not. You've bought a more expensive Audi.
Well,
and also funded a GT3's development.
Well, that much is true. That is why I do appreciate every Cayenne buyer, every Macan buyer, because at the end of the day, they are the reason we still get GT3s.
You've bought an objectively like a middling SUV with a fancy badge on it, but the fact that you bought the one with the fancy badge on it means you get more of the fun cars that also have that fancy badge on it, but more of the engineering.
That actually gets me to like a point that it's not just Doug who seems to have noticed this either. Because Porsche's pulled off a very impressive trick, because Ferrari only releases a couple of thousand, maybe tens of thousands of cars a year. Period. They do not sell many cars on purpose, but they have thick margins because I don't think there's any car they sell for less than 400.
As far as I know, Ferrari, like as much like crap as I will give them for like being the S&M relationship with their buyers, they're an artisan brand. They're one of the last.
A little bit. Now, I don't know how artisan haptic touch buttons are, especially when one of them is your engine start button. Yeah, that's haptic. I don't know why that's like that, but you can it's still very pretty. You can
still cost save as an artisan, I guess.
Yeah. But the interesting trick is, in a lot of people, in most non-enthusiasts' heads, they see Porsche and Ferrari as being in the same category. You know? And this is something that Camisa noted when the ST came out, and he simply described the ST as Ferrari's reign is over. It is done.
I mean, they're kind of doing
it is finished.
That right now.
And
at least it seems to the general zeitgeist.
And honestly, kind of, yeah. Like, I know if this podcast started like 20 years ago, there wouldn't be a 911 up there. There'd be like an Enzo up there.
Yeah. But
right now, most people I know really mostly care about 911s, right? As far as like dream cars go, right? The most written car on the entire internet's the GT3. Like, there's no debate about that. Children everywhere will take up their arms and defend it as the greatest thing to ever touch the Nürburgring, you know? And so there's something really weird happening there that I want to look at, because like I looked at the numbers. Porsche sells hundreds of thousands of cars. Oh my God, they sell so many cars.
They are a big brand.
They are like
they're not an artisan brand.
They're just a brand. Like,
they're just a brand.
And this is not me like smack talking them. This is good on them. They make money. You know.
They didn't used to. This is
big
ups to them.
This is a relatively new development. Which, you know, it's kind of that time period of Porsche being broke. And then like 8 years later, they're entering this weird convoluted relationship to buy VW. I'd love to do more research into that, because I'm like, how broke were you? How broke were you if 8 years later you are like fighting VW for leadership?
Considering that we're receiving handouts from Mercedes.
I don't know enough about that, honestly. I want to do a little bit more reading so I can speak on it, because also it's very convoluted how Porsche almost took over Volkswagen, and kind of did take over Volkswagen, but
which would have been full circle for them, honestly.
Yeah, totally. But Porsche's pulled off an incredible trick, because in most people's heads, you hear, oh, you have a Porsche, and it's saved as close enough to a Ferrari. You know, like there's still always, oh, you have a Ferrari, dang, you know, and there's still always like people still like turn and look at Ferraris because you don't see that shape ever for most people, you know. But like, and Porsches don't have that last like 20%. But like for most people,
I mean, yeah, that's usually what I think is not.
You hear
they're
Porsche,
on the same
you're successful
level, but like Porsche is, you wanted a sports car but are slightly more responsible with your money. Ferrari was either you had buckets of money, too much to spend, honestly, or I didn't care. I just wanted the fun car. I wanted the big,
there's some-
expensive,
I mean, there's some Ferraris.
car, which is what Ferraris are.
And honestly, the way they've done that is very carefully managing the images where, I mean, I promise you now, you go look at Porsche's social media, you will see like 10 911s to every one Macan you see. They very carefully managed their image. So when you see Porsche, you think sports car, not Cayennes and Macans, which is really what they sell. Like that's the main thing that company sells.
No, they
are a Macan and Cayenne company that also happens to sell 911s.
Macans and Cayennes leave the show floors because they're reasonable. The sports car is unreasonable, but there's nothing you can do to make the sports car reasonable. It's a sports car. It's not supposed to be.
Well,
it does one thing, and it does that one thing really good. And trying to make it do anything else, like become your money maker, your real general use thing, would just ruin and dilute the identity of it.
Yeah, exactly. And you
so
see
it's
that
that they sell a bunch of SUVs because it just funds the fun things.
Yeah, you see that ethos of I build an engine and attach wheels to it, and like I think that's part of why Porsche is kind of eating up more of the zeitgeist nowadays. Maybe not base 911s or that, or even like maybe turbos, but like GT3s definitely feel like we built the engine first and then figured out pretty much everything else. And especially when you consider, I believe the current GT3 motor's been around for like 10 plus years. I think it's pushing on 15 years old. Don't quote me. I think at least a decade
It's
old.
German, so it can almost drink.
And everything else around it has just kind of been engineered as they've gone along. They've iterated, they've made it more dynamic, they've made it look far meaner. Oh my God, it's one of the meanest looking cars on sale right now. And yeah, it's very, very close to that original ethos of we built an engine,
and we put
cool,
4 wheels on it.
And we put 4 wheels on it. And everybody loved that.
In fact, I mean, it seems like a lot of like the GT3 is we made this engine that is frankly way too powerful. How do we make everything cope with how much power is getting to the ground from this engine?
Well, it's a Nürburgring obsession at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's kind of what they do every single time a new one comes out. It is a couple of seconds quicker, And it's shocking because it's never the most powerful thing there. It's never anything. You look at the numbers.
At the end of the day, my philosophy on that is it's all up to the driver more than it is the car.
No, because like the AMG one is like 630.
I've seen Grand Caravans pass up GT3s on clips on the Nürburgring.
Yeah, but I'm talking about testing for like.
I mean, yeah,
the
testing.
record board.
You obviously grabbed a good driver for that.
Yeah,
but
obviously, but. I mean, you look.
I've seen a semi truck pass a GT3 on the Nürburgring. It's funny.
That's a different episode. But generally speaking, you see all of its numbers and they're just not that impressive. But then, like, you see all the experience that's coming out of that car, and you're like, okay, well, that's why this car is so beloved by everyone and beloved by enthusiasts specifically. Because I will not lie, most people outside of the enthusiast space cannot tell 911s apart. Period. You could take every 911 after 2008 and put them side by side, and most people won't be able to tell them apart.
I still have a hard time, and I've like been in this space for not as long as you have, but a while.
But yeah, well, I'm weird. I can tell them apart by door handles. That's not normal.
We watched an episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. I think it was part 5, and from a single quarter of a second frame of a quarter panel of a car, this man paused the show, looked at it, and went, "That's a 911."
Well,
let it resume.
Specific generation too, yeah.
Yeah, in specific generation, unpaused, and lo and behold,
yeah, it was. We could literally play this game where you could just like flash images of 911s at me at random parts, and I'd be able to.
And you could identify
Even Caymans,
it.
I think, but
yeah.
And that just goes to show like the amount of cachet they have, at least in my mind, anyway.
Or maybe you just have an obsession.
I mean, but I'm also not going to lie here. It's not like the median 911 owner is young either. So both still struggle from the same issue of having cars that appeal to young people. Because at the end of the day, like the only people who really care and meet ride these cars are like not the oldest. Like you don't see 45-year-olds on boards fighting over like, oh well, this car's faster. Like that just doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen.
I mean, not in this space, at least.
And so they suffer from the same problem, but critically, the headspace isn't there. It's not a price thing either. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a massive price delta between GT3s in any Ferrari.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
It depends on the. I feel like it depends
Some
on the
of them have
GT3 spec.
some of them have been depreciating low enough that they are actually comparable. Mostly the hybrid ones.
Fine.
But they have been. So there are a couple of Ferraris you can get for GT3 money, but still, like the good Ferraris have never ever been like cheap. They've always been at minimum a house. At minimum a house.
Yeah.
At maximum multiple houses, so it's not a cost thing. This isn't new. And there's also like some benefits to Ferrari's whole approach. As much as it infuriates you to be that exclusive, while every other automaker has lost ground lost ground in China, they haven't. They sell like no cars, dude. They always have more customers than cars. Like that is the thing you have to recognize about Ferrari that's so impressive. There is always somebody at the door ready to buy it. There are too many rich people for them. They're literally too. Like, I get it. Yippee-ki-yay. Mommy, wow. You have a net worth of 50 million. You're the 10th guy to walk in today like that. Get in line.
I mean, I feel like that's part of the reason why they give you the runaround of you have to buy 5 of these like crap cars to get an allotment for the expensive good ones.
They operate in an entirely different world. So I have to think and ask, do they even care? Like, do they even care? Is this? I think they do care about depreciation a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Like, they just released a new flagship. If that one depreciates hard, that's a little concerning.
That's a little concerning because that means they really have lost their social cachet.
They've lost a little bit, and they do still make. Honest to God, because of how much you see them advertising like Ferrari style and like Ferrari as a lifestyle, I honest to God was ready to look at their financials and see
what's going on.
This is a
here.
Fashion house selling cars every 5 minutes or something, Thankfully, they're publicly traded. They do put this out. Most of their money does still come from cars.
Okay, that's good.
So they are still a car company with the hardest stock ticker. You know what Ferrari stock ticker is?
What is it?
Race. Like, come on. Come on, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
That's
you
good.
can't even hate on it. So they do still sell cars for the most part, though. I mean, they make a not insignificant amount of money from all of these.
I mean, yeah, their cars are expensive.
All of these deals.
Their cars are expensive, and there's a lot of like old money, like rich families that have been like buying them for years, generations almost.
Well, again, some old money, yeah, but like also a lot of it just feels like
It can't be new money. New money is more a Lamborghini thing.
Not new, because new money implies like you made it and you're young. I'm talking new money relative to generational wealth.
Yeah, no, that
like new money relative to, well, my father was a Vanderbilt. Like anything less than one human lifetime, you're new money to them. You know? And so like you'll see like very, very well off people still buying Ferraris. They just tend to be like, 50, 60.
Yeah.
I wish car companies still put out the data, because they used to put out like what the average customer looks like. And like Porsche used to put out like the average Porsche customer is, I think he was mid 50s and made $500,000 a year and was typically college educated and was working in a STEM field. That is like the perfect average.
It's moved from dentistry.
That was perfect average Porsche customer, and then Bugatti put out the same thing, and it was like the median Bugatti customer has like 3 jets or something stupid like that. Like just ridiculous levels of wealth. You know what I mean? Like they might as well say the average Bugatti customer is a sheikh. That's the average Bugatti customer. A sheikh. Are you a sheikh? Get out.
You only have a Honda Jet. I have 4 Cessna Citations.
Pretty much.
I have a CRJ 200. And a half.
The funniest thing from back when these stats were being published? Corvettes had the oldest customers.
No, that makes sense.
I need you to deep that.
That makes sense. I don't need to deep that. That makes entirely sense.
The median Corvette owner was the oldest.
Yep.
Which is why you see them with the C8 trying so desperately, like, please, God, anyone under 60. Please.
Which explains why it looks like a gamer Ferrari.
That's a great way to describe it. I always thought like Temu Ferrari.
Gamer.
But like that's a very good way.
Yeah.
And
I can't wait to see like all of the RGB underglow.
Oh god, yeah, that car's
maybe some
that
rainbow
car's gonna
vomit
get cheap.
all over it.
That car's gonna get cheap and tasteless at some point.
No, I
save for the Z06.
other than the red,
God bless them
other
for
than the
making
red because it is Corvette, I can entirely see the spec being like black or white with like RGB underglow all over it.
God, yeah.
Like.
No, I'm not talking about the spec. I'm talking about once they depreciate down. Because I'm gonna be honest,
every Corvette depreciates. You can get like C7 C8s for like, or not C7 C8. Jesus Christ! Subtract 2 from that. Subtract 2 from that.
C6s.
C5 C6s for like 15 to 20 on anywhere. I've seen them for that low.
It's not manual.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm very certain. Like base Corvettes are being made at such. Speaking of like how many cars they make, do you know the number of cars Ferrari sells in a year is the number of Corvettes they sell every month?
Yeah.
That car is gonna take.
They obviously
the base one.
They never heard about inflation. So they have simply been printing more cars.
I mean, people keep buying them
and not realizing that printing more cars means the value of the car goes down.
I actually think they did succeed. They did put out like the median owners now in their 50s. So look at that, wins, baby.
It went from.
I mean, that's big. That's big. The average Porsche customer is 50, so like that's in line.
It went from like pale silver to salt and pepper.
Yeah. I think so. I've always loved. This is not a Corvette episode. I do want to do a Corvette episode because I do think the CO6 is really cool. I just wish it was manual. But I do love when they were showing off the seats for that car, and they were like, one of our specific targets was to make sure it was wide and comfortable, which just strays at your own customers at this point. You know, like wide and comfortable tells you a lot. Tells you a lot. I've never heard any other automaker want their seats to be both wide and comfortable. I've heard comfortable. Not wide.
I did hear that they were trying to target it also at aviators, which is why they say it's more of a cockpit than. But I've also been in one, and once again, gamer cockpit.
To your average person, though, it looks like a cockpit.
People have not seen fighter jet cockpits.
Yeah, pretty much. No. They have
Those things are
they
Spartan.
have a facsimile.
They're either Spartan or like sensory overload of dials and like gizmos and buttons and switches and bloops and blops.
But like to get back on topic, right? I don't think it's a money issue because Ferrari's kind of never been.
No.
I think honestly it's very strange, but if I had to pit it to any one thing, they've been like a hit dog for very long as far as their marketing goes.
What do you mean by this?
Like you know when you see like a dog that's unfortunately been treated pretty rough in its life, and it's like super tense and like will snap at you for doing basically nothing.
Yeah.
Ferrari for a long time was behaving like that, where it's like, for example, Chris Harris pointed out, hey, some of these cars aren't putting out the numbers that they should, and some of these cars they feel like you've given me a special car to review. That's not what customers are getting. To which Ferrari said, very neat, very cool. Never touch one of our cars again. Yeah, you know? And they have historically always brought like multiple cars to the press, you know? Oh, this is the one you must drive on the track. This is the track one only. This is the street one. You must drive that all down the street. And it's like, what's going on here? And then you also look at how much they hate comparison tests, and they hate seeing their cars near anything else because to Ferrari, nothing comes close. There is no competition. The average Ferrari customer does not care about this. They will come to us for us. They never want to see what this is about. And so you see all of that, and what that ends up leading to is, especially in this age of social media where most people get all of this stuff from the internet, the cars not only don't exist in real life because you never see them, they kind of don't exist online either because not only are journalists kind of afraid to say stuff about them because if they can blacklist Chris Harris, they can blacklist anyone.
Didn't they blacklist?
Because he's like one of the best in the business.
They've blacklisted several like big time celebrities for either doing something or saying.
If I remember correctly, like Justin Bieber and the Kardashians can't buy Ferraris.
Yeah,
and
because
so, like,
JB painted one like what was it, like some form of baby blue, and they're like they never touch our cars again.
Yeah, never touch our cars again. They're very defensive of their brand.
Like they took that back from him.
Well, it's because a lot of
he
Ferraris
repoed his car.
a lot of Ferraris aren't.
This
owned.
is the fun thing: you never own own your
it.
Ferrari. There's always a piece of paper in the glove box. I've seen this because somebody has brought me to Ferraris and said, hey, look at this. And they opened the glove box and said, what?
The title always shows the owner's.
The title just says Ferrari dealership, and then we go to the next Ferrari dealership.
Like it's very, when you see like a Ferrari title with someone's name on it,
it means they have money.
Yes.
Like a lot of money.
Well,
like an incomprehensible amount of money.
I'd say it's comprehensible depending on the one.
Yeah, fair
some less so than others, but like I'd say it's very comprehensible.
The actually special Ferraris are the ones where you know you are in the presence of mega rich light bending guy.
Yeah, pretty much. And so I think a lot of why to the average, because I mean at the end of the day, Ferrari can claim all they want. They don't care what the average Joe thinks about their car, but a big part of the whole Ferrari mystique is the car being special. And if nobody cares,
then you don't feel special driving it.
You know? Like if people don't freak out when you bring an F40 to Cars and Coffee, what's the point? Unless you are very cool and you go, I wanted one. That's the entire point.
Yeah, exactly. Which I feel like is the only way you should buy a car.
You know,
but like some people also care about how they're looked at when they go to Cars and Coffee.
You can't deny that there's perceptions to this. I mean, Ferrari themselves basically admit there's perceptions to this when they guard their brand this aggressively. So I think it's kind of resulted in them not vanishing from the public zeitgeist, but not holding the poster car status they used to. Because there was a time period where you walked into any teenage boy's bedroom and it was a Ferrari or a Countach. Those were the two options available to you.
Yeah.
And depending on era, maybe Diablo. Those were the two options available. That was it.
I'll not lie to you. The 80s, they want their teenagers back.
You know, that was the only time you'd see it. Nowadays, I mean, first of all, wallpapers have kind of died, but like people's backgrounds still exist.
Yeah, phone backgrounds still exist.
Most of the time, it's a GT3. Most of the time, it's a GT3.
Yeah.
That is like the most glazed car. And the reason...
Please pull your phone out.
Well, mine rotates. It's an NSX sometimes, but hold on. Depending on time of day... yeah, see, it's an NSX right now.
Oh,
hold on.
Well,
see, it's an NSX right now.
you had me.
See?
I'm sorry, my bit's been ruined.
Yeah, your bit's been ruined.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's the suck.
My phone, meanwhile, is just a default Apple background.
It rotates from time to time. But meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, you have other brands that have been like, yeah, sure, here are the keys, have fun. And lo and behold, that's going to exist in a lot more people's minds, especially when you consider how much people love to play like top trumps online and like basically die on the sword, like die on the hill of another man's car. It's never not been weird to me, but like there's a lot of people who will strike up arguments over cars they don't own.
It feels like an anime power scaling argument.
Pretty much.
It's like, buddy, none of this matters.
And if anyone,
this is a TV show.
If anyone has been the best at it, it's Porsche. They've been incredible at it. They've been chucking the keys at everyone. A suspicious number of influencers keep buying GT3s. You know, it's like how do you guys keep getting allocations and nobody else is? What's going on here?
It's kind of like the new Lamborghini. Honestly,
it exists.
Like instead of buying like an Aventador, you make money as a YouTuber and you go out and buy an Aventador. You go out, you make money, and as a YouTuber, I
think the Aventador still has a space.
And you buy a GT3.
I think the Aventador still has a space.
I mean, yeah.
I think I don't think that, but that's a great example.
It used to be 100% of like wealthy YouTubers bought Aventadors, and now it's like 50-50.
It depends, but that's another good example too of like cars that have captured the zeitgeist, because most kids look at YouTubers and they see Aventadors, and you think that's just the best car ever. And to be fair, it is one of the best sounding cars on the planet. It's an easy top 10 contender. I've heard, unfortunately, on the inside, it's not that good.
No.
I've heard it sounds like two Camrys having a fight on the inside. If you have an Aventador and would like to change my mind about this, please email us. It's in the channel description. You know where the email is. Yeah, but I've heard it's described as two Camrys having a fight, which is not a good thing. But from the outside,
what does that sound like? What does that sound like? Oh, my gas mileage is better. Oh my god, I got bigger trunk space.
Pretty much. But on the outside, that car, you can pull up almost any clip of an Aventador and it always sounds good. It always sounds good. And so I think, honestly, if there's any one thing that has contributed, not to resale values, because that's complicated, you know, we'll get to resale values in a moment, but I think as far as like general zeitgeist, I think it's a hesitation in being so defensive over the brand, which to be fair, is kind of a big deal. I'm not gonna lie, Ferrari's not much without its brand, so I see why they defend it so aggressively.
Yeah.
And I'll be fair, they've been getting better. The way they have handled Hamilton moving into Ferrari, masterclass.
As a photographer,
masterclass.
those pictures,
there is not a single picture where Hamilton looks bad.
those are so good.
And there's not a picture where any of the Ferrari cars, hell, even the employees look good.
Yeah.
Like, they are handling that very, very well. And so I suspect like they've changed up their social media strategy a little bit, but I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah,
Now,
is they're just not. It feels like they're relying too much on the way they've always done things rather than the way things are now. You know what I mean?
they've also had a very complicated internal structure for a while. Ferrari, as with a lot of boutique automakers, sometimes they make money, sometimes they really don't. And so it leads to a little bit of instability, which is why they're so defensive nowadays. Because, I mean,
They've been in periods of bad, and they don't want that again.
I mean, look at it. Lamborghini couldn't survive on their own. They had to be bought out by Volkswagen.
Yeah.
You know, Porsche same.
Wasn't
Porsche had to start
to be bought out?
Porsche had to start selling SUVs about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so like do with that as you will.
Didn't Porsche have like Toyota like
Porsche's corporate history is so difficult to get through because at several points they've wanted to kill the 911 for cars that are just kind of not 911 successors. There's so, and then the whole family drama going on where they were constantly fighting and bickering and like stealing each other's wives so badly that they had to write a rule that no Porsche could ever manage the company. It got messy. Porsche's internal structure could be a TV show.
That's funny.
There's so much that's happened to that company. It's a miracle they can still make Beetles. It's a miracle.
Stretched out Beetles.
Yeah, stretched out. And
Beetles.
they've gotten wider too.
They took the Beetle PNG and they just
Yeah, and a little wider too.
Yeah.
But as for resale values, I think that one at the end of the day is, I don't know what the median Ferrari customer's age is. I don't. But I strongly suspect they are the age where electrification does nothing for them. Which does nothing for them. And so, or at least the median Ferrari second-hand customer, because I think those are two very different people.
Yeah.
You know, I think they are the kind of person where, I mean, I don't think anyone's saying Ferraris look worse nowadays. The 296 looks stunning.
They look good.
Oh my God. But Ferraris were so defined by their motor, so defined. I mean, like, for a very, very, very long time, Ferrari sounded like F1 cars bouncing off walls, you know? And they've tried to keep that alive. I mean, the flat plane crank V8s don't sound bad. Their V6s still, I think, sound the best in the business, you know? But I think it's a kind of company that if I'm buying a used Ferrari, I want a V12. I think is what's happening, at least me personally. If I'm buying a used Ferrari, I want a V12. If I'm paying $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 for a car, I want it to have a V12, and I want it to be simple enough that I know it won't be off the road, you know? And you pair Ferraris, I'm not going to say reliability issues. I'd say different reliability targets, let's call it. Because
let's go back to the one Top Gear clip of them doing a drag race between a Ferrari and a Lamborghini.
Which one is that?
It was May and it was Hammond. And May says something. I think May is driving a Ferrari and Hammond is driving the Lamborghini. And May says something to the effect of, if I try to like dump the clutch and start this from go, there is a chance that the clutch will break. Well, how much is that? That is $35,000.
Again,
and Hammond says, well, in the Lamborghini, if I drop the clutch and just start from nothing, there's a chance that the rear differential and axle will break. Well, how much is that? About $30,000. Well, do we want to have a rolling drag race then? Let's have a rolling drag race.
I mean, like at the end of the day, Ferraris, it's dependent on what their mission is. You know, they're not looking to make Camrys. They're not looking to make like Porsches. They're looking to make Ferraris.
If I'm buying a Ferrari, it's not to like daily drive. unless I suddenly come upon billions of dollars. It's not to daily drive and
to
like
be an
go
occasion.
get groceries in. It's to be an occasion.
Yeah, they're not looking to make Porsches, which are, reliable, but when something breaks, it does cost you, They're not looking to make Camrys where nothing breaks, oil optional, They're looking to make experiences. They're looking to make as close as you can get to an F1 car while still having impact bumpers, and like crash safety. They want a race car on the road, at least they used to. And so a lot of that means that, like, yeah, cool, we fit a V12 in there, and the way we fit it in means that if you want to do a timing belt, drop the engine.
Yeah.
And
you have to make some compromises.
Exactly. And like, I'll be fair to them, the engine is designed to be dropped. This is not like most cars where you're like, come get in there,
There is an engine-sized hole under the car specifically for it to come out.
Precisely. It's still expensive, but they made it as simple as they could. And if it's Italian engineering at the end of the day, like, this isn't German engineering we're talking about, this isn't Japanese engineering we're talking about, but at the end of the day, what the Germans and the Japanese don't have is like, oh my God, look at the cars.
Yeah.
There's not a Ferrari where its face card declines. Ever. Ever. They make works of art, and they do them with such pomp and circumstance. I mean, like, can you imagine?
Toyotas are completely unsexy, but they're a ride or die, and they will stick with you for years, and you will never have problems with them. Germans are like straight to your face, exactly like telling you exactly what they do and exactly what they want you to do with them. And Ferraris are a romantic girlfriend who's like beautiful. Will take you on dates and be a wonderful time, but will also splash water in your face occasionally.
Occasionally. I mean, and like there's a real flair, there's a real drama that Ferrari gets that nobody else in the business even comes close to. I mean, for goodness sake, I think it was it the Enzo or the F40? One of the two. I think maybe even both. They sent to the Pope to dedicate to God. That's how good they thought their cars were. Can you imagine the chest to sign off on your car saying it's good enough for the pearly gates? Because if you get that wrong, you're burning. If you get that wrong, you're burning. Like, there's a certain level of drama that those cars have. There's a certain level of special that those cars have that nobody else even comes close to. And so, while I think, like, yeah, their resale values are not great at the moment.
A little bit wacky.
I don't think it's permanent. I think they'll probably do some motor changes. I do think that. I do think maybe less electrification or a higher focus on experience as far as engine note
Like
goes.
if you're going to do a hybrid, but also want to be like a race car,
Make it dramatic.
Like put an LMPH car on the road. Like it's hybrid for the first 30 miles per hour, and then the engine kicks on, and you hear the wrath of God upon the road.
They've kind of done that a little bit, but like give more of it. I think. I also think Ferrari has. It would, and I get it, this is like every enthusiast ever, but I do actually think that it would behoove them to put manual transmissions back in their cars. If anything, just because journalists won't shut up about manuals.
Yeah.
And that is better marketing for them. And also, we have seen that there is a high-end market for manuals, and they do tend to hold their value. And so if we are dealing with a situation where, okay, let's say hypothetically we do have to make a hybrid, right? Let's say hypothetically we must make it a V6, right? There's nothing we can do about these things. Well, we could put a manual in it, and that would at least help with the resale values a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's not impossible to do. I'm not familiar with the exact way they have the hybrid system set up, but it's not impossible. I mean, there've been patents for it.
I mean, you could like stick it in neutral, and then at that point the motors, if they're disconnected from the transmission, if like they're direct to wheels, could work that way. But
I think honestly the main thing is Ferrari's been very focused on competing in like motorsport, but not really competing with the road cars in a way a lot of the others have been. And I think that would be the biggest thing that would help them out a lot.
Yeah.
Would be getting it into the public consciousness, letting people know that like, yeah, okay, cool, it's a hybrid. It whoops everything. Because I'm going to be honest, most people buy these cars for the idea they represent, not what they really are, because nobody needs cars that fast. You're not going to use it. There's no road on earth you're going to use it, unless you're a track guy. Then you probably will use it a little bit, But for most people, it's about the feeling it evokes. And I mean, for most Ferrari customers, I'd wager they care less about pole position on track and care more about pole position at the valet, you know? Like, that's their main... I mean, for goodness sake, when I was reading for this episode, the top thread on Ferrari chat is, what watch are you wearing today?
It's more about the lifestyle that, like... Not necessarily the lifestyle that Ferrari, like, is selling, but more about the lifestyle around it. Like, this is the rich version of, like, r/everyday carry. Like, of the Ferrari is in my everyday drive, along with, like, some expensive.
It's why you see Bugatti.
You're more of a watch person. What is the most expensive watch you can think of right now?
Oh, the most.
Because I'd go with the classic Rolex, but it's probably not the most.
It's too cheap.
Yeah.
Well, the Paul Newman Daytona is cheating.
Yeah.
That's cheating. I like Ronaldo's watch, which is, oh God, I forget it, but it's like an inch thick and just diamonds in every direction. It's the stupidest look. It's not stupid, but it's just like, wow, I can tell that's a mortgage, you know? So that'd be the one I go with.
It was a mortgage just for the sake of being a mortgage.
Because the Paul Newman Daytona, to most people, they see that, like, oh, nice watch. But you see that on someone and you go like, okay. Or something from a Langanzana, I'd say, or probably, or Richard Mille too, I'd say. But anyway, that is the average Ferrari customer's main concern. So I think they genuinely benefit from competing more. My question would be, though, can they afford to? I'm not saying Ferrari's broke. I'm not going to call Ferrari broke, right? But, like, you can't lie. A lot of the reason why Bugatti exists is and, like, the only reason I'm comparing them to Bugatti is because their flagships are very similarly priced. These are multi-million-dollar cars, you know?
Yeah.
And so a lot of why you see Bugatti's values rock solid is, where else are you going to get a quad turbo V16 that's the fastest car on earth?
It's a bit excessive.
Go ahead.
Try it.
Find somewhere else. I don't care that it's not manual. Where else will you find this experience? Oh, also, it's the most comfortable car you've ever been in. Where else are you going to find it? Nowhere. So, of course, they will line up and buy it. They don't care that the tires cost 30 grand. It doesn't matter to them.
If you have the money for a multi-million-dollar car, you don't care if the tires are 30 grand. That's chump change to you.
But critically, Bugatti gets to benefit from all of Volkswagen's engineering.
Yeah, so, like, the what is it? The key fob from, like, a Volkswagen Golf is the same
in a specific era.
Yeah.
It's the same key fob shared with the Bugatti. It's so funny. But, like, that was the Piech era. But just generally speaking, even today, they get to benefit from the hordes of engineers that Volkswagen employs, you know? And this is all they do every day. And that's a big thing. They also get to benefit from having Rimac intelligence as far as electrification goes, too. So they have some real serious edges.
Yeah.
The Ferrari just doesn't have.
No.
Like,
they're an artisan brand. They're a small team of engineers who've been doing this for 50 years.
And so
but unfortunately, like,
I don't know if
I like that. I like the artisan,
right?
like the artisan mentality of, like, treating this as an
it's
art.
An art
Every
form
single engine
Maranello.
is, like, a very specific, like, Mercedes having a team of very specific people for their AMG team who all, like, sign the engine block that they worked on.
So cool.
That's cool.
I dig it.
But it's only edging on Artisan. I'm not gonna lie. It's only edging because it was tuned, but, like, this was still engineered by several other people.
I think some AMG motors are hand built.
Do you think so?
I believe so.
I mean, yeah, but they were still mass engineered. There are a lot more AMGs on the road than there are Ferraris. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
That's why I say Ferrari is more of an artisan brand than the AMG team is.
They are hand built.
Yeah.
I mean, but yes, obviously you're right. Ferraris are more artisan. So
that it comes with the territory. You're not going to keep up with, like, it. It's like somebody is handwriting a full essay, and it's like, yeah, this is beautiful. You have wonderful penmanship. You wrote this in cursive with, like, a dip pen. This is beautiful. Not only are the words on the paper a work of art, but the fact that you wrote this way is a work of art in and of itself. Bugatti's using ChatGPT, and they're getting this done half the time, and then they have the extra half of the time to tune it up and make it look pretty. It doesn't matter. They're using the tech and the more advanced ways to their advantage. It doesn't matter if they're not an artisan brand. They're able to put way better of a product out a lot faster than you can. There's not much you can do about that.
And so I mean, it's the same thing with Porsche too. They get to benefit from a lot of engineering budget that maybe just wouldn't be profitable for Ferrari. Frankly, they have a very specific model.
You know, I brought it up earlier, and you we didn't get into it, but the Toyota engineers being invited to tune up the design and build process for Porsches a couple decades ago. You know, that was just a tune-up. I feel like if those Toyota engineers walked into Ferrari R&D, they'd cry.
What, again, at the end of the day, again, I'd wager every day they make more Camrys than Ferrari makes cars.
But that's where I'm getting to, is like,
Actually,
it's a completely different engineering and design philosophy. It's like, Ferrari's not really engineering and designing. They're painting a beautiful piece of art.
They make so many Camrys. Oh my God.
But Toyota is just stamping stuff out.
Okay, so it's not every day. Sorry, I just got to clarify. It's not every day. But about every week, Toyota makes more Camrys than Ferrari sells cars. Which just... every 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so like these engineering philosophies are incompatible.
Yeah, they don't
I don't want my Ferraris built like Camrys, and I don't want my Camrys built like Ferraris.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Yeah.
You know?
Because again, it goes back to, you don't buy a Ferrari for like consistent daily drivability, grocery getting. You buy it for like, this is special, personified with 4 wheels.
Yes. And so I would say honestly, heavier focus on social media, getting them in the hands of more people that people see would be a big help. And then also, I was going to say originally compete more. I don't know if they can or frankly want to, or it would be profitable for them, because at the end of the day, Ferrari's numbers are looking good. Like, they're not exactly hurting. We can sit here and chat about it all the live long day. At the end of the day, the check's still clear.
Yeah.
You know, card don't decline for them. So I would say...
I wonder if it would behoove them to start making bespoke cars for people at this point.
They do kind of. They have a whole program. I forget the name. I know.
Not quite Sonderwunsch. Not quite.
Porsche has Sonderwunsch. Lamborghini has Ad Personam. They do have a program though to like heavily tailor your car to almost be specific to you.
Yeah.
Oh God, the name is escaping me though. The name is utterly escaping me, but they do have something like that. I styling's still good.
Yeah.
I'd say honestly,
like I said, it's not my taste, but it's not bad. It's good.
I would say honestly, if they focused on getting their cars into more visible hands, they're already doing a very good job of that in the traditional sense. You know, most celebrities have them, and they're in very visible hands that way. But also more non-traditional celebrities having them, more like, not niche, because I'm not going to say like Matt Watson's niche for God's sake, but like, you know.
I feel like that would have worked in like the 60s, 70s, 80s, which is their like prime,
No,
where they were popular.
Worked back then.
Is you have celebrities who own these, and like they tell their, like it passes by word of mouth, as an artisan brand would. However, we're in the age of social media and like mass media, where you put a Porsche in a Transformers movie and suddenly little Timmy grows up and he wants a Porsche GT3 RS.
That reminds me, there was a Ferrari in the Transformers movie.
Was there?
Yes.
And it was a pain in the ass to get him there. I know this.
No, there was some contingency, if I remember correctly.
He had to be a good guy, and he could not take a loss.
He couldn't lose. I remember that. He couldn't lose in anything because he was a Ferrari. And also, if he had to be Italian, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
There were a lot of contingency, but there was one.
They're very protective of their brand.
Yes, exactly.
Which tends to mean they're kind of assholes. And yeah, I don't like it that they're assholes, but like, I get it.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
you'll just never see one in my hands, either because I don't like them, or they don't want me to have one, or I don't have enough money.
I mean, I do think that's kind of the main hurdle. You know, is I don't think you can even afford the shirts they sell.
No,
you know, the button-ups they sell, or you know,
the button-up which is just like a Ralph Lauren polo with a Ferrari badge on it instead of the horse.
I'd also say they'd benefit very, very much so from really focusing on not just the internal, but the no, because it's like that's more of a Lamborghini thing. I was gonna say you should be able to recognize a Ferrari by sound, but that feels more like a Lamborghini thing. Ferraris aren't necessarily the loudest, most attention-grabbing thing on planet Earth. It depends.
It does depend.
It depends. I mean, like, for example, like,
I would say adjusted for the amount I've seen, because I will say I have seen many more Lamborghinis than I have Ferraris. I'd say the number of Lamborghinis I've seen compared to the number of Lamborghinis I've seen rev their engines out is about the same ratio to the amount of Ferraris I've seen to the amount of Ferraris I've seen rev their engine out. So I'd say it's the same thing. I just see less Ferraris.
Then maybe I mean, you can always recognize a Ferrari by sight. They're always red. You know, you draw a race car. What color will it be? Red. So maybe adding sound to that would be very helpful to them in this time period. But at the end of
and to be fair, like the flat plane crank, like usually a V in excess of 6-cylinder.
well, now
sound.
Corvette sounds like that, so Ferrari can't ever sound like that. Sorry.
Gamer Ferrari.
It's become too poor. For them.
Yeah. Well, before that, the really zippy woo sound used to be very Ferrari.
God, yes, it was.
Yeah.
And God, I think everyone misses that.
Yeah.
And the fact that that engine is now in an SUV. Why is it the SUV that gets that? I have so many questions.
So this is my one toxic car trait. I like seeing cars that should not have a powerful engine have a powerful engine. Like the Trackhawk, which is a souped up Grand Caravan, I think is so funny.
The only one
I think is so funny.
The only one I like is that time Dodge crammed a Hellcat into a minivan. Just because it's like, why? I don't think they ever sold it. They didn't sell it. This was purely a proof of concept, but it fit.
The Trackhawk's basically an SUV, or basically a minivan. It's an SUV.
Yeah. But that
I would love to see.
What?
A Toyota Sienna. I know Toyota's got the engines on hand. No, they don't. Never mind.
No, they have one fun V8, but they refuse to give it a manual. They have one fun V8, though.
In what? Oh, the Supra? No.
Their M3 competitor and that one stupidly beautiful car they sell that I don't see anyone buy. The LC500. They're also terrible about naming. I swear to God. LC500, yeah.
They're very...
Very pretty. One of the most beautiful cars on sale.
No. The naming convention. They're very accurate. Very precise. Like
it's not as bad as German naming, man. Yeah. Nothing gets as bad as...
Where this is like literally just a...
This is exactly what the car is. What is it? A Porsche 911 built to race in the GT3 group. And this is the Rennsport model, which is the racing model. Manti Racing, which means it was modified by Manti Racing, which is how you get a Porsche 911 GT3 RS MR.
I've heard of more confusing series of letters.
Oh yeah, that was without me saying it's like a 992.2.
See, there we go. There's the numbers.
And so,
which I get is probably a very reasonable and a very
it makes sense once you understand.
Once you understand the naming convention. Asinine. But like, you say that you say that not to a Victorian child, but some random person on the street right now, and they're like,
"Yeah,
are you okay? Do I need to take you to a hospital?"
It sounds like you're having a stroke. But like that's how...
Do you smell burning toast?
I think the Germans suck at naming things. They're great at engineering things, but Lord have mercy.
BMW's naming convention, which again makes sense when you understand it. But like...
I like it. Like the
you tell that to someone on the street.
The numbered series, it makes sense to me.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But you tell that to someone who's not a car person, a random person on the street, and they're like, are you having a stroke?
No, I think BMW is fine. But those are topics for another day. That does bring an end to this episode. Again, at the end of the day, like, we can sit here and chat, and the entire internet can sit here and chat and say, like, Ferrari's reign is over. The check's still clearing for them, bro.
They still have money.
And specifically, they have Hamilton money. Mm-hmm. So
this is why it
feels very armchair speculation.
Yeah,
at the end of the
I'm not
day.
going to speculate on them. I get it.
I'm sure something will probably change in the foreseeable future, because Ferrari customers can only lose $300,000 so many times. Mm-hmm. But like, have we gotten to that point yet? I don't think so.
I think they're. I
think if their current flagship, the new one coming out, which I don't know how I feel about. I typically like Ferrari flagships. This is the first time I'm like, what's going on here? I've seen it in yellow and I like it, but that's a concerning sign because I'm supposed to like it in red.
Maybe you're not the right Ferrari
it's very,
customer.
Have you seen it before?
No, I've not. I don't think so.
Hold on. It's not designed by Pininfarina is what I'm going to say.
Okay. So I might like it.
I doubt you will. Ta-da.
turn this thing around the other way. Let me get a better view on this
Hold on.
thing.
Let me show it to you in yellow. F80 yellow.
No. I just didn't get a good view of it.
Okay.
Try the other way so the cables don't get...
Which way? Oh, yeah.
Counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise. In yellow, it's not bad. I could tolerate it in yellow. But, like, there's something going on there. And I don't know how I feel about it.
Once again, there is something going on here.
Jury's out. And, like, every other one's been untouchable. Literally every...
The black
the 40
bar...
Enzo, come on.
The black bar in line with the headlights, I don't like. I think if that was gotten rid of, it would be a lot better. I actually really like the rear end.
Oh, I mean, Ferrari's never had a bad rear end. Yuck.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to lie. I don't hate it. I think if maybe I will Photoshop that black band between the two headlights out. I think it would look a lot better without that.
Yeah, it's very... And this is a
I
flagship.
think that disrupts its silhouette a little bit too much and it confuses it.
Yeah, this is a flagship, so it's not going to get a facelift. This is it. This is the only one. They're going to make a couple hundred probably, and then that's it. That's going to be a wrap, you know?
Well...
And so I don't know how I fully feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's got 1,200 horsepower, which is impressive,
Mm-hmm.
except for the fact that modern day sedans can be had with 1,050 horsepower. So,
yeah,
EVs really screw everything up, man. They really jack up your perception. I'm fairly certain it's going to rev high. I'm almost 100% certain it's going to sound good.
I mean, I feel like at this point with the way EVs are going, you can't buy a car for speed anymore. You have to buy it because you like the flavor.
Not straight line speed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no competition. There's no competition.
No.
There's no competition at all.
Well, when you start getting above like 120, you start seeing a gap in performance, but like 0 to 120, 150?
Not against the Lucid Air Sapphire, you don't.
Why, yes.
That is a big problem.
That's not the one I'm talking about,
I speculate very strongly in like 5 years, it'll just be at almost every speed up to maybe even like 180.
Yeah.
It's just going to be quicker. I mean, it's why you see them focusing on electrification like that.
Mm-hmm.
The technology's ceiling hasn't been reached yet, so nobody knows. But also, at the end of the day, I've been in fast EVs.
There's no fizz. You just go from 0 to 150 and like you're there now.
The first 10 times, it's so cool.
Yeah.
But then you adjust to going 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds.
You feel like 2 G's to the chest and you're like, oh, this is fun.
Like, don't get me wrong, it's like 0 to 60 in like 1.9 seconds. It's impressive, but after you've experienced it a couple of times, you're just like, I mean, it's still fun to do. Mm-hmm. It's still very fun to do, I imagine. But the biggest thing perspective is every time I'm in a car with somebody who's never experienced that before, and then they're like, oh my God, and it's like, oh yeah, right, you know, this is
not normal.
You couldn't fall out of a plane fast enough to feel this.
Mm-hmm.
So, but EVs are a different episode. That's entirely...
Again,
I feel so bad for automakers right now.
Why?
Because can you fathom making a car ain't cheap? Developing a platform is not cheap. This is a $100 million to $1 billion effort, and so everyone like mid 2010s goes, oh my God, internal combustion's dead. Oh, it's so Jover. We're only seeing the beginnings of this EV thing. We need to develop a platform now. And then like 10 years later, they see EV depreciation. They see consumer sentiment around EVs. And then they see public policy hard swinging in the opposite direction. And they're just like,
why did we do this? Why did we do this?
Why did you do that? Why did you do that? You know, like I can't. The amount of companies right now that were like, Porsche was supposed to release an EV Cayman. That's
not happening anymore.
They've been kicking that can down the road because they're like, oh my God.
Isn't that what the Taycan was supposed to be?
The Taycan was supposed to be a Model S competitor. But,
well,
you know, I mean, they're facing similar depreciation. So
yeah.
They're competing on the way down.
Yeah.
That much they are.
I mean, at the end of the day,
fighting.
when it comes to internal combustion versus like electric, they're all cars. It depends on what flavor you like. If you want to play a game between the two of them, it doesn't matter. It's a car. It's 4 wheels and something that makes the 4 wheels go forward.
We will.
Some of them are louder than others. It's just whatever flavor you like.
We will cover EVs a different day, but that pretty much sums up the amount of armchair speculation I'm willing to do
About
Ferrari today.
an Italian company
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think
who will no longer sell me a car now that we've made this video.
I think they'll still sell me a car.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Again, I think my problem, the biggest hurdle between me and a Ferrari is I don't think my card won't decline for that. I'm fairly certain I'll tap it and the card will incinerate on the spot.
Yeah.
Like there's a delta.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. Yours is just your card will decline. Mine is just like...
Plus, I'm gonna be honest. Most Ferraris I just want to like I would do the thing of going out to the garage. Yep.
Yeah.
Still there.
Yep.
And then just walk out. You know, just I love the design of them very very.
Well, I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to replace the clutch.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah, that is true. Oh, well. But that does bring an end to this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week if you're on Patreon, and next Saturday if you're not. Either way, it's cool. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for being you.